welcome to the Compass PD podcast. I am Dr. Carrie Hepburn, the founder and CEO of Compass PD, and I am joined today by a really fun, great friend and colleague, Dr. Bridgett Niedringhaus. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Carrie.
I'm so excited to have you today. Something that many of you may not know is that Bridgett and I have a, a long history, a long relationship when it comes to being friends and in education. So she was my first administrator back in 2003. Does that
Sounds
seem?
right.
I know. So I was just super blessed my first year to start my career off in education with excellent leaders, people who were thoughtful, people who were intentional, and people who had a heart for education for kids and for staff. And so Dr. Niedringhaus kicked that off for me my at the beginning of my career. So I was
I think
really
we
blessed.
both started at the same time. We started at Cosley at the same time. So I wasn't a first year administrator, but I was a first year at the school.
At the school in our district. I was part of the hiring committee that brought Bridgett to our school district and to our school as the PTO parent. I was the president of the PTO at the time. So not only was I moving in from being a parent in the school and a substitute, but moving into a staff role. So it was a really fun time, and she blew us away with her interview, and we obviously made one of the best decisions that we could have made. So it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. So I'm going to tell our listeners a little bit about you before we get into the podcast. Sound okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome. So, what I need to tell you about Dr. Niedringhaus is that she is passionate and she's committed to education. She has always believed in putting students first. That's something that she's never wavered from, and it's really always been a strong part of her values. And you can see that in the decisions that she makes, in the language that she uses, the words that she speaks. The kids are always at the forefront of her mind. Her journey in education was driven by her desire to positively impact the lives of students and help them achieve her full potential. One of the things that happened in her tenure at the school that we worked at together was that Bridgett inherited, or actually, she inherited a students SEGA, so students of exceptionally gifted program that was moved from one building to another. And then she started an intensive um, autistic program in her building. So she really believed that all kids, and she served those students and their families so well. And she made sure that they felt valued, they felt seen, they felt heard, and that we were all receiving the type of instruction and professional development that we needed in order to serve them so they could reach their full potential. She began several years ago, I won't say when, but as a classroom teacher, and then moved into instructional coaching and then a principal. And she recently or currently is serving at the collegiate level as well, where she serves former or soon to be teachers in her role. So people who are going to school and they are going to be teachers that are entering your schools, your districts, your buildings. Something that you may not know about Dr. Niedringhaus, but it won't take you long to figure out, is that she has excellent communication skills and problem-solving abilities. She's earned a reputation as a trusted mentor and leader who always puts the needs of her students and staff first. And I can tell you that I've experienced that as well, because I've seen her on several extremely under pressure situations, like lockdowns where there are helicopters over the building, and tornadoes, trying to hit the school, and she had to decide what was the best decision, regardless of all the people that were trying to sway her. She made the best decision when it came to keeping the students and the staff um, protected and safe and putting them first in both of those situations. And I know there's hundreds and hundreds more. So, another thing that I can tell you is that she's been an incredible mentor and leader for me. Through her years of experience as an administrator, Dr. Niedringhaus gained a deep understanding of the education system, and she honed her skills in staff development, program assessments, strategic planning, school law. She's done a lot of that in her roles, having those different types of programs in her school, scheduling, which all of you know can be challenging, curriculum development, and human resources. Her dedication to professional development and her passion for learning has allowed her to stay up to date with the latest developments in the field of education and provide innovative solutions to challenges educators face today. Over the last few years, Dr. Niedringhaus has been working, which I'm really excited we're going to hear about that today, with brand new teachers. Those are our most precious resource right now, friends. All of you know we are really wanting new teachers in our profession because it is the best profession that there is, but is one of the most challenging professions out there. So, after a really fun discussion that she and I had the other day in one of our many think tanks, she shared the disconnect between what is happening at the university level and what building principals need their teachers to, so that they can be prepared in the classroom in their buildings. And so we thought that'd be a great discussion for us to have for all of you to just kind of buy in on and listen in on us having that conversation. So, welcome, Bridget.
Thank
I,
you.
I
I
really
love
do. I couldn't help but like add little extras in that because I have such a background in history with you that I think it's important for people to know that um, you've lived it, you've experienced it, and you're a practitioner. You've had boots on the ground. You've been in these situations, and so I think it's really important that not only can I tell about those, but I can say I was there with you as you were doing some of those things. So I
right there.
thought we would, for sure, for sure. I thought I would just start by kicking off. First of all, I have my professional notebook and I have all of my pens because I am so excited about all the things that we're going to learn today with you and that you're going to share with us. So I thought we'd do kind of a Q&A. You ready to
Great.
get started?
I am.
Awesome. So, question one. After over 2 decades in the public school system, you moved to the collegiate level. What surprised you most about the prep program for teachers? Like, what was most surprising to you when it came to the prep program for teachers?
So first of all, let me say, working with pre-service teachers has really rocked my world. I love it. It's, being in the elementary school, you just love the rawness of the students. And I found that at the collegiate level with the undergraduates.
Mhm.
These pre-service educators are just so full of enthusiasm, and they just want to do the best, and they're just so eager to get in there and get their own classrooms and things like that. As coming from the building and as an administrator and then going into the pre-service program, the one thing that was really glaringly obvious to me is the social emotional learning component that we need to spend some more time on. And so I
Mhm.
won't say that it's not addressed at all at the collegiate level, but there's a pretty big gap there. And so we know that teachers today, as they're stepping into the classroom, they are faced with such a myriad of social emotional components with their own students, whether it be, the impact of trauma on students. And so we know that we need our teachers to have like their own toolkit coming in to be ready for some of those things. Of course, experience is going to be their best teacher, right? When it comes to
Mhm.
social emotional learning, you almost have to live it to understand how to best support students. However, there are things that we can do to kind of build some background knowledge for our incoming teachers,
Mhm.
so that they have some ideas about what they might be facing, and looking at the supports that we have in schools and things like that. They're getting ready to this group that is graduating this year. This was our COVID group. And so the
Mhm.
undergrads that are getting ready to go through commencement, they came in as freshmen and had all the excitement in the world in the fall semester. And then that spring semester hit and we shut down. And
Mm.
so we, as we talk about that in terms of what does that look like in public ed. We're talking about what does that look like in terms of the collegiate level as well. And so when I think about the ed prep programs, students themselves have been through some of the trauma and the social emotional component as a student, and now we need to help them get that other perspective as going in and
Mhm.
as a teacher, and what's the best way
Mm.
to help our students.
Mm. That's so interesting. I hadn't even thought about that they are the first group that are coming, but that was their college experience, their first year.
Right, so all those fun freshman things that you do, the orientations and stuff still happened, and then all of a sudden in the spring, it didn't really ever give them any closure to their freshman year.
Mhm. Nice. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. That's so interesting. One of the things that you talked about was like building their background knowledge. So if you were thinking that you were getting ready to receive these new teachers in your building, what advice might you give those? I know I'm like going off, but like what would be a couple of tips that would be helpful for them to help support their new teachers right now that would be coming?
Sure. So we know that mentorship programs are just so important. And so
Mhm.
I would say as a building administrator, this can be a difficult task, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, you want to make sure that the mentorship, that if you're setting a new teacher up with a current teacher, you really want to think long and hard about who's going to be the best
Mhm.
fit for that. And so sometimes as administrators, we might get a little pressure that, well, we haven't used this teacher yet, or we want to share the
Mm.
wealth. And so I just want to challenge administrators to really think through that. um, Todd Whitaker talks in his book about what great principals do differently. He really talks about our best teachers and how much attention our best teachers deserve. And so when we go to our best teachers and say, hey, we really need your help here, we need you to provide this mentorship, really taking the time to talk to the teacher about why we're doing this and making sure that it's the right fit. And
Mm.
so, our new incoming teachers, they're going to have a million and one questions. And so, if you have somebody that's just not really their style, is they're not the most open to that kind of a relationship, then take a pass on them and let's find
Mm.
somebody that will fit the role. And that's going to be key, because we want our new teachers to come in and right away start feeling comfortable and make some of those connections. The other thing
Mhm.
is, as an administrator, it's our responsibility to develop relationships with all of our faculty. And so making sure that you're spending some time with your incoming teachers. And so whether that be, maybe they have a work day coming that you can spend a little time just with the new teachers and letting them kind of have a camaraderie amongst themselves, right? Because they're all new. And so at least they might feel like at the end of the day, somebody else has a feeling or an understanding of what they're going through, and they're
Mhm.
going through the same thing. But as an administrator, just talking to them about, things that that are on their mind. And
Mhm.
really, like, we all know the first thing that I thought of as a new teacher was, okay, I need to get this bulletin board taken care of, this bulletin
Yeah.
board taken care of. I need to decorate the desks. I need
Mhm.
to, so helping them know that those things are good, and let's think beyond that. And
Mhm.
so, by developing a relationship with them as an administrator, helping them realize who are their instructional coaches and helping
Mhm.
them develop relationships, knowing things like who are your counseling staff and developing relationships with them and how important that will be.
Mhm.
Um, who are the two people that you need to know the most? The office secretary and the custodians. And so I
Yes.
think that the administrator really just can be that liaison for developing other relationships, and just knowing that, we have to point those resources out for our new teachers,
Mhm.
and our mentors will take part of that as well.
Mhm. Well, it's so interesting because we're sitting here talking about social emotional learning, that big gap for our staff, our new teachers that are coming in. And as you're chatting, I'm thinking it's not different than the importance and the value of relationships for students and how we have to invest in that and make sure that we put intentionally invest in that. So what I'm hearing from you is intentionality, and
Yes.
that it is going to take some time, but in the end, doing that, it will help set those new teachers up for success.
Carrie, one of the books I'm reading right now, it's called Fearless Schools by Doug
Mhm,
Reeves. And in his book, he talks a lot about building trust and the
mhm,
importance of trust. And
mm,
so it's kind of taking, we talk about building relationships, but let's talk a little more specific about the piece of trust. And one of the things that is in his book, I'm just going to read a line from his book. Trust pervades almost every aspect of human social life. It plays a decisive role in families, organizations, markets, and the political sphere. Without trust, families fall apart, organizations are inefficient, market transactions are costly, and political leaders lack public support. And so taking those really practical, how do I operate in my family, or how do I operate with my friendships? And we talk about the importance of trust. And I can tell you, trust is for me is probably one of the key characteristics that I look for in my relationships and my friendships and things like that. And just putting it into the lens of, why should our relationships with our teachers be any different? As an
mhm,
administrator, I need my teachers to be able to trust me, and
mhm,
I need to be able to trust them. And
mhm,
so doing those things that are going to, we use the word transparency a lot. Sometimes I even think overuse, but those are those times, those are those opportunities to do things like building trust, getting
mhm,
in there and supporting your teachers, whether they're new teachers or veterans. Those are those opportunities to build trust. And
mhm,
that's where that relationship is really going to start to lock in.
mhm. I love that. I love that quote. I need to write that down because that could be just a motto or in your office, or, you know, vinyled on something, like cricketed on a, just as a reminder, just a reminder of the value and the importance of trust, building it, keeping it, earning it, all of those things. So we sort of went into some of the stuff that was in, and I know I swayed us a little bit that way, but I want to make sure that we hit all of the parts of question two, which are new teachers leaving college, entering our schools, excited to teach students. What do district leaders need to do to set them up for success? So, one of the things that you've already talked about is like that mentorship, but what are some other things that you would add? What do we need to do as district leaders to set these new teachers up for success in our schools?
So I think one of the things we need to do is provide good professional development for our new teachers. And what does that look like? And so I think sometimes we get really caught up in here's what we want to do with our new teachers. And we forget that we have ongoing initiatives in the schools that maybe we sometimes take for granted that our new teachers should understand and know. And so an example would be when we are operating as a professional learning community in our buildings, we really need to bring new teachers in to understand that process. And so because we don't have all the time in the world to get them the in-depth training right away, we need to at least get them started on some of those key understandings of the professional learning communities, understanding those four questions that we operate around and making sure that they understand that so that when they are meeting with their professional learning communities, they have an idea of why they're doing the work that they're doing. And isn't that just the most important, is to understand the why
The
of
why.
what I'm doing.
Hmm.
I think organizations, we can't do that enough. We
Hmm.
can't, that to me is that's trust building right there, right?
Hmm.
Because we're telling people, why do we need to do this? And so we need to do that with our new teachers as well. Instead of just kind of throwing them in halfway, we need to help them kind of walk in and understand why they're getting into the practices that they are. I
That's
think that,
so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
oh,
interrupt.
it's
I just
okay.
was thinking that's so interesting because we've been working with some school districts talking about like a professional development cycle, thinking through like cyclical, but um, because oftentimes in at the district level, they think, well, we did PLC training 5, 6 years ago, and for some reason, we think by osmosis or miraculously, everyone that's new entering the space is going to get that same amount of knowledge or understanding because of their PLC, but in actuality, the teachers don't have time to add that on top of their list, getting that background knowledge, that understanding that why behind the process in to like teaching that knowledge to our new teachers. And so we at the district level, at the building level, have to be really thoughtful and intentional of making sure that we do that. We can't expect others to take that on. So I love that example. That's so powerful. So
I think
powerful.
there's an assumption that teachers will just be generally curious on their own. And so these new teachers coming in will hear things and then they'll just go ahead and find out on their own. And we really don't want to leave that to chance. You know, we really want to make sure that we're supporting our new teachers at the district level by making sure we're not leaving things to chance, because
Mhm.
then that's where you get all your inconsistencies and your individual interpretations and things like that.
Mhm.
But if we come up with plans first before we start introducing a bunch of new initiatives for
Mhm.
our teachers, let's take our new teachers and introduce them to the initiatives that we actually currently already have up and going so that they can be a part of the team.
Mm. Love that. So thoughtful. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So, knowing what you know now, how can I, because I think you have a lot of different perspectives, like a lot of different lenses that you are able to view this education system from. And so I'm, and what I haven't mentioned either is that Bridgett has two daughters who are elementary teachers. Both of her daughters are in the trenches, and so she supports them as well. I know as a mom and as a former elementary principal, just guiding and giving guidance and advice. So knowing what you know now, how can a building principal set their new teachers like up for success? So we talked about the relationships, we talked about a little bit of the mentorship. What else might we consider?
So I think that we also need to consider, uh, I hate to say this, but like what is the current reality of our new teachers
Mhm,
coming in? And so I would love to tell you, as somebody who works in an ed prep program, that all ed prep programs are doing these things. And we do, we have standards and everything, just like in the schools. But we have to remember that our new teachers are coming in with different backgrounds. And so sometimes, we need to take stock and see what the current reality is of our new teachers. And
mhm,
so it may be that we really need to help them with some knowledge about special education students and how to best
mhm,
work them into the classroom. It may be that we need to focus on just curriculum and helping them work through the curriculum and
mhm,
understand how to look at a curriculum guide and things like that. And so I think that there's a lot of power in just what we can provide them through different scaffolds in the school. So
mhm,
whether it be, those experts in literacy,
mhm,
the experts in the social emotional learning components, the experts in reading, and we have a lot of different ways that we can go here. And we've we've done a great job in the schools at building leadership capacity, that internal leadership capacity. And to me, one of the best things we can do for our new teachers is to rely on that, because as an administrator, I can't provide all of that for a new teacher
mhm,
by myself,
mhm.
nor would I want to, because I have experts in the field in
Right,
my own building that can
right.
do that for them. And so just that sharing the wealth and making sure you're getting them connected with the right people, the right experts, is going to be key.
And I love it when our dogs come visit on our
Sorry.
podcast. So don't be sorry. I love it when you guys are lucky you don't have my giant mastiff behind me snoring like a freight train. So we love dogs at Compass PD. Something that I want to just that I was just thinking that I've run into when I'm in schools and districts are some of the soft skills that are required in our role, because education, you never know what you're going to experience, or um, what a parent teacher conference or any of these things can be like. And I think sometimes you don't realize that you have to communicate differently, as it takes you a while to get that experience, that when you talk with different stakeholders in education, parents, students, your team, your administration, outside of your team, within our building, like all of those require a different type of professionalism and a
Mm,
different type of like communication technique. And so sometimes I don't think that you can prepare for that in the collegiate level because they're not in front of those situations. But I do think that that's something at the district or the building level we could do better and provide more even role playing opportunities that we could practice those kinds of things. So one of something that stuck out to me was recently when I was in a district and they were trying to help support teachers that were texting parents and telling them the problems over text.
mm,
So it's like that it's not quite, it's more professional than that. So just trying to get uh, our new generation who've grown up differently, their experiences have been different than when you're in your 50s, obviously. And so how can we help them? And then there's nothing more frightening for a brand new teacher than to walk into a meeting where there's a lot of emotion and anger and frustration, and learning how to keep your emotions in check so that you can stay focused on the child, and so that you don't, like, break down hysterically crying or scream and yell, because it can get sometimes people do attack you, and you're not ready for that,
Mhm.
and, I think we have to do some things to help prepare them. That's part of, I think, probably social emotionally too, like, how to learn how to then live your life after you've had an experience like that too, that it's not defining you, it's just a moment in time, and I think sometimes that's not something that we've done to help set them up for success either, and it's
That's
hard.
interesting, as part of, an administrator's job in the hiring process, I always looked at what are those non-teachable skills that the
Mhm.
candidates bring. I
Ah,
can teach you how to look at a curriculum guide. I
yep.
can teach you how to get stronger with your reading instruction, or somebody can. I can't always teach you self-regulated behavior,
Mhm.
those kinds of things. And so you have to look at some of those soft skills actually during the hiring process, and
Mm.
just kind of what comes through during the hiring process. As well as, I love how you brought up, the parent teacher conference and things like that. It is the administrator's role to help model that for our new teachers, or for teachers in general. Let's just be honest, because
Mhm.
even a veteran teacher sometimes needs that assurance, needs that administrator that'll come
Mhm.
in and sit with them. And the administrator might not need to say a word, but that provides enough confidence
Mhm.
for whether it's a new teacher or a veteran teacher to just know that they have some support there. And
Yeah.
so, just through that modeling process, through when we talk about the trust building, I trust that my administrator is going to support my decision,
Mhm.
or I have already communicated with my administrator that I have concerns. And so here was the direction I was thinking about going. And the administrator says, sounds like a great plan. What can
Mm.
I do to help you? Or, is there anything I can do to help you? And some people don't want the administrator sitting there, right? They feel like
Right,
they want
right.
input on their own, but they just need the reassurance that they're on the right track.
Yep.
Now, our new teachers, they're not equipped with some of those confrontational things that can happen, and the administrator isn't always there when it happens. If a parent
Right.
calls and just blasts you on the phone, I wouldn't know about it
Mhm.
till the teacher comes and we can kind of work through it together, and
Mhm.
then put a plan in action for a response, or
Mhm.
inviting the parents to come in. That's always my favorite. I
Mhm.
think that when you get face to face with people, it automatically, for most situations,
Yeah.
de-escalates.
Yep. I agree. We've had some that haven't, and we've had some that pop up, in situations, and those are by far less common. I think, I do love that. How can we bring them in? And I think just let them know that we're on the same team,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely. And you know what? We don't know what kind of experience our parents have
Mm-mm,
had with the school
mm-mm,
system.
mhm.
And so bringing them in can be an intimidating factor for them. And that's definitely not what we want.
Yeah.
But we want them to understand our role and trying to support them. And I think that's an important thing for the new teachers to understand too,
Mhm, mhm.
is that just like this might be an uncomfortable conversation for them, probably for the parent as well.
Yeah, yeah. So true. That's so true. And I think it is when we can think like we're on the same team to help your child be the best that they can be, and
Right.
go back to your beliefs and your values to reach their full potential. We're gonna do great when we're paired together. Like
Yes.
nothing but great things can happen.
Right. And I love how you said, like, we're on the same team. And
Mhm,
so pitchers and catchers and outfielders are all on the same team. It doesn't mean they have the same skill set,
mhm,
doesn't mean they have the same background or the same training. And so we have to remember parents and administrators and teachers on the same team. We come
mhm,
with different backgrounds and different skill sets, but
mhm.
our focus is still the child.
Yeah, yeah, yep. And as a parent that sat in those meetings with my own children, I can tell you when I know you care about my kid, like my my s my if I was angry, that's coming way down as soon as I know, "Oh, you care about my kid? Okay, we got this." Like, I'm not it helps so much just to know that you know my child, you care about my child, and that we're gonna work on this together. So, my final well, not my final question, but my final, question about, like, this topic. What excites you most about the new teachers that you've worked with that are entering the education field?
There is just this enthusiasm for learning, and they they all, I won't say they all, most of them really understand the importance of relationships. And so
Mm,
they know how important it is for them to get into that classroom and develop relationships with students, find out what their interests are, what their likes and dislikes are, find out about them as a student, find out about them as a person outside of the classroom, and just really taking the time to invest. And I see that our pre-service teachers, when they're going into the field, they're coming back and they're talking about, oh, this one does this. And, they're
mhm,
so excited to hear, or the little, the notes or the comments that kids make to them. And they're all getting included as part of the classroom. And that really
mhm,
is exciting to them. And so they understand that, and the power that those relationships have.
mm. I love it. Okay. Do you have any other thoughts that you'd like to share?
You know, uh, there's so many great authors, researchers out there that talk about best ways to support faculty and staff, best ways to support students, and it just seems like the underlying message is, as administrators, it's time for us to be real with
Mm,
our staff and faculty, be real with our parents, be real with our students. It's time to take down some of the walls that I think traditionally administrators thought they had to put up and keep
mhm,
up, because the more we get to know the people that we're working with, the more that they are going to trust us. Can you imagine
mhm,
when we think about the number of hours a week students are placed in a school, and we have to learn as parents to trust teachers to keep my child engaged and
mhm,
educated, and
mhm,
administrators to keep my children safe, and districts to make good sound decisions on behalf of my children. And so we want to make sure that we're on the right foot with all of that.
mhm. That's like a mic drop wisdom there. Thank you so much for, sharing that. Well, I want us to go into some rapid fire questions for you, if you don't mind. Okay.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap up. Sadly, I feel like you and I could just we could just really
I
sit
know.
and talk about this for a really long time. So if you can't handle that,
Absolutely.
guys, we could totally do that. So right now, I want to know, what are your top three favorite books?
So right now, my top three favorite books, Jesus Calling by Sarah Young is my devotional,
Yeah,
and she
that's a
has
great one.
different versions of it. And so
Hmm.
that's a part of my daily life, part of my daily practice.
Yeah.
Um, I love books by Mitch Albom, and I know he
Mhm.
has several of them. I think the first one I read was Tuesdays with Maury, and I just think it's such a good, heartfelt book. And I love that his books I could read in like a sitting, and not
Oh,
feel like I have to stick with it, because unfortunately, because of our schedules, sometimes you start something and it's like a month and you haven't moved.
mhm. Mm. Right, right.
And then my favorite professional book is The Six Secrets of
Secrets
Change
of
by
Change.
Michael Fullan. And he
Yeah.
also has like another, it's called Leading in a Culture of Change. And
Mm,
I laugh because change is the one constant, right? And so these books are timeless to me,
mhm.
because it just really gives us some good ideas about what are the best ways, whether it's just a change initiative or something small, uh, how important it is to work through change with people.
Awesome. I love that. I have not read The Six Secrets of Change. I feel like I need to add that
It's a
to my
very
books
good
now.
practical read.
Okay. Now, quick question, because I'm on the road so much, I do a lot of audio reading too. Does it have a lot of charts and things in it that I need to have access to, or I could listen and I could read it that way? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's on my list next. Thank you. What? Okay. So, what is your favorite? I'm not surprised by this. What is your favorite pump you up song?
So I am an 80s girl.
Yes.
And Time for Me to Fly by REO Speedwagon is just probably my fave. But I
Yeah.
would say a close second is Don't Stop
Oh
Believin', which
my
has kind
God,
of
I was
become
only
the
gonna say
mantra
that.
of our family. So
I love that. And don't you feel like every time those songs come on, you're just like, yeah, you're just,
yes.
you
And if
suddenly
you're out
feel
in
energized.
public, you can see other people singing, and yeah.
Uh-huh. You know what's so funny is there's this thing called silent disco where you go that they put headphones on everyone in the room and there's music playing on the headphones and everyone's can be a little bit different. But all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, don't stop believing. You'll see somebody and like you gravitate toward those people. It's just one of those wild
I've
things
never
that
heard of that.
no, it's yeah, it happens at, like, all-inclusive resorts. So, you
Oh,
know how they have, like, different entertainment things that are kinda fun
uh-huh.
at night? I've only seen it at all-inclusive resorts, so,
That
and
sounds
yeah, so it's just kind of a fun little thing, a little bit different. So, what I wanna do is let everyone know that Dr. Niedringhaus is going to be leading this awesome monthly coaching for elementary administrators, and it's called Retaining the Passion, supporting new teachers in their first few years of teaching. Each year, new teachers are entering your buildings and the profession with enthusiasm and passion for teaching, only to exit before making it to year three. And so, in this workshop, Dr. Niedringhaus is going to explore research based methods for supporting and retaining new teachers. We would love to hear from you. There are some spots available still, so you need to reach out to me at Carrie at compass-pd.com. You can find it on our website, and we can get you all of the important details so that you get signed up and you get lots more time with Dr. Niedringhaus and moments just like what we just had. So I just want to say thank you so much for all you do. Thank you for serving in education. You've dedicated your life. It is your life's work, as many of our that's our entire Compass PD, this team. This is our life's work, and we're all in our passions, and this is your passion, supporting administrators and supporting new teachers, and helping just make the education system even better. So thank you so much for joining us today, Bridgett.
Thank you for having me, Carrie.